Hello, everyone. Welcome to Midway Gaming. I'm Nick over the sound of the comms, of course. Justin providing audio, gameplay, and his own brand of commentary wherever and whenever he can. Because let's be honest, I can't stop him. So, Microsoft. Let's talk about Game Pass. Funny enough, my Game Pass Core actually was coming up, and I was thinking about upgrading. Turns out, might have to go to the higher end topic or higher tier because the worth might not be as great anymore. Yeah, I think my original opening to this video was probably better. Oh well,
We get there when we get there.
it's all live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm making this shit up as I go along. But anyways, so Game Pass might not be the best deal on the gaming market anymore, depending on who you ask. For those who don't know, good lord, why did I take such a deep breath? For those who don't know, Game Pass actually recently, and we'll soon have in September, a price hike across the board for its just services in general, as well as adding another tier to their system. In the words of one particular article, again, all articles mentioned below, link down in the comments below. Game Pass just got 365'd. Microsoft has never been great at branding, and honestly, if I'm being honest, that's very true. Because now things have gone from confusing to, So, let's break this down. Before we go into the price hike, well, no, let's go straight into the price hikes. So, what ended up happening is that Microsoft Game Pass decided to increase the base price of all of their subscriptions across the board by a few dollars. We'll get into the specifics in a minute of how much by how much. But generally, the reason for this is at least given or implied or whatever. I've yet to find any articles explicitly confirm it. But the general consensus seems to be that the reason Xbox is doing this is because remember Activision Blizzard? They own them now? Yeah. I don't know. So they're lumping COD, the newest ones, and the day one nonsense, into the Game Pass. So I'm guessing they're thinking that because they're giving more value, they can demand a higher price, which for a businessman makes sense. For a logical man, it doesn't, because, you're kind of raising the prices and nobody likes that. And offering one more type of game series on your Game Pass might not be enough to justify a price increase, but hey, I'm not Xbox's executive, so what do I know? I'm just a guy with 2 degrees in business. Or 2 diplomas, I should say. Soon to be a degree, as of my eventual education. So, what do I know? But the actual price increases kind of break down like this. So Game Pass Ultimate, which is like the high tier of Game Pass, for those who don't know, I should give you a little background first if you're not in the Xbox circle, or haven't been for a very long time. Originally, it was known as Xbox Live and Xbox Live Gold. Xbox Live was basically the multiplayer feature that they ended up monetizing. I remember when this was a big thing back in the day, when the console providers started basically having a subscription service that without it didn't allow you to play multiplayer, which shut the fuck
It's very dumb, but basically think of it along the lines of you're paying for internet, except internet that you've already paid for and on a console.
Anyways, they've been doing this since the 360 days, so I've kind of gone over it. So, originally what they had was Xbox Live Gold. In the more recent years, they've basically taken Xbox Live Gold, which existed alongside their Xbox Game Pass stuff, and kind of conjoined it. This is the same kind of thing that PlayStation did with their kind of PlayStation Plus and PlayStation, whatever they were calling it. I don't remember at the time. I have both because I play both consoles because I'm like that. But yeah, they combined it for the sake of simplicity. Now instead of Xbox Live, it is Xbox Live or Xbox Live Gold. Now it's just Xbox Game Pass Core, which is basically the same features as Live, including cloud saving and multiplayer. So again, there was some other things to it than just multiplayer. They had to justify it somehow. And they kind of lumped it into the Game Pass service. This was them attemptingly trying to push people into the Game Pass environment, even if they didn't have a Game Pass. It was whatever. But now, they're adding even more complexity. So, about them price hikes. So, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which for those who don't know, is basically the massive Game Pass thing, which has everything. Your multiplayer, your cloud save, your access to a mega library of games on the streaming service that you can stream on your phone, your PC, yada, 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 yada. A bunch of features. basically the top tier nonsense. That'll be going from about, again, these are American pricings, $16.99 a month to $19.99 a month if you're doing the monthly. PC Game Pass, which I didn't actually know existed until we started covering this article, effectively that is the same thing as Ultimate, except strictly for the PC. So it is not having any console stuff. So if you're confused, let me just kind of break this down. So PC Game Pass, right, has all the stuff that has only games that are for the PC. So any Microsoft games that are for the PC, or any games that are available on the PC, or anyone who does a lot of Microsoft PC gaming, this is the Game Pass for you. It doesn't have any of the stuff for consoles, so you can't stream any of that. But it has, just PC exclusive stuff. Depending on if you're a PC player, this might be a good investment for you. This itself will also have a price increase from $9 from $9.99 to $11.99. And Game Pass Core, which as we covered before was kind of when they took Xbox Live and Xbox Live Gold and kind of lumped them into the Game Pass system, this will stay at $9.99 monthly, but rise from $5.99 to $7.40 or $74.99, excuse me, I said that word, a year for annual plans. So monthly seems to be staying the same, but the annual plan is raising, which, again, this is according to multiple outlets. This is from Forbes, by the way, this article I'm referencing for the prices. You could also make a case that this also a particular article kind of breaks down the pricing between PlayStation and Xbox, and how PlayStation might now have the cheaper plan for their streaming service, with PlayStation Premium being like the $17.99 per month. PlayStation equivalent to Game Pass will be cheaper to subscriptions by like $2 per month advantage. Again, the Forbes article kind of breaks down the details of like Xbox's price hikes to PlayStation's price hikes, and the fact that PlayStation now is beating out Xbox in terms of subscription plan by like $2 whole. Whoop-de-doo. But I mean, in fairness, if you live dollar to dollar, that is certainly something to take advantage of. And let's be honest, all these articles say the same thing across the board, is that these price hikes in subscription plans in the games industry seem to be mirroring the entertainment industry as a whole. Subscription plans seem to be on the rise. Granted, the different reasons are given for the movie industry. Netflix, I remember, gave the reason that they're doing it to stay competitive, which I guess kind of makes sense, especially with all the competition out there these days. But nonetheless, there certainly seems to be mimicking the other price hikes across the industry, at least in terms of that they're doing it. So about that overcomplication I was talking about, well, let's break it down. Originally, like I said, in Xbox's ecosystem, there were 3 plans. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, so that's everything, your streaming, your yada yada, your classic titles, all that kit and caboodle. Game Pass Core, which was exclusively for consoles. Kind of had a little bit of a library. Not, again, for PC gamers, because it's purely for consoles, really. I have this, actually. It's a cheaper option. I can get it with, well, basically points. But now, you have a new plan. Game Pass Console. I'm just going to read the article because I don't think I can really do this justice. And this plan is going for $11 per month. In the words of the article, this one going back to our wonderful friends over at PC World, and I quote, "It includes the library of downloadable Xbox games, minus the EA Play titles," which, mind you, are now going into Game Pass Ultimate as well, justifying the price increase, I guess, I don't know. Anyways, going back. But no streaming games from the cloud, so no access to PC-only games. And I don't have an Xbox hardly to test this, but according to the bullet points on the Xbox promotional site, Game Pass Console doesn't include Game Pass Core perks, which means you don't get access to online multiplayer, even though you're paying $1 more per month. End quote. So,
yes.
Not sure what the point to this one is, because as we discussed earlier in the show, like Xbox Live and PlayStation, whatever they had before, PSN, I think it was, or yeah, was basically their attempt to sell multiplayer to people, back to them, as well as other features such as cloud save. The cloud saving is nice, but the internet is. So the fact that they're having a console-only version now, which again doesn't have access to the EA Play titles, because I guess EA will not concede their titles, which honestly makes sense for them. No streaming games from the clouds, so all the excess computerized stuff that comes with the PC-only games. So again, Microsoft games streaming to the PC. That's gone. But weirdly enough, you also don't even get access to online multiplayer through this pass, which you'd think would be the one thing you'd actually want. I mean, I guess if you don't have friends, or if you really just don't like multiplayer, even.
Not with other people.
I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking with this one. And again, this one's going to be going for $11 per month. Again, American pricing. So convert that to whatever localized system you're in. We're in Canada, for those who aren't aware, so it's
Yes.
probably obviously going to be expensive in Canada. More expensive. Interestingly enough, the article itself even makes mention on thinking, well, then maybe you'll just subscribe to Game Pass Core and Game Pass Console, because for those who don't know, Game Pass Core doesn't actually give you the massive, like, well, no, I don't see what they're doing here, but the whole point to this is probably, we'll give you Game Pass Console, which will have the massive library of games in Ultimate for console, but you just won't get, like, multiplayer, streaming, and stuff like that. So basically the massive library, but you have to download it locally. That's kind of the same thing with PC. And so you're probably thinking, as mentioned by this article, well, okay, I'll just get Game Pass Core and Game Pass Console. So I'll get the massive library of console, but I'll also keep the multiplayer and the cloud save and stuff of Core. Okay. However, again, American pricing, but that would be $21 per month, and you'd be getting less content than the $17 per month Game Pass Ultimate, which, remind you, ladies and gentlemen, has all of the kit and caboodle, plus the EA games and, you know, the streaming and yada yada yada, which doesn't come in the console. So you're still not getting the most bang for your buck here. You're paying arguably way more here, 21 instead of 17, for less features. Big selling features too, like streaming console games, as well as no streaming PC games. You know, big ticket items, and I guess EA Plays is in there as well, like your earlier Gran Turismo games. But I'm not being cynical to EA at all, no. But the point here is that it really doesn't make sense because, again, the logical standpoint as pointed out by this article, get one and the other to get the bigger category, doesn't make sense because you can get more for less with Ultimate, even after the price increase. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us in a weird spot because here's the thing, right? These price hikes are technically coming in totality, so all across the board permanently, in September. Doesn't give a specific date when it's September, but just assume September in general. Because again, these are subscription plans, they go out monthly, so it doesn't really matter. September. These price hikes, however, kind of start on Wednesday if you're new. So basically what's happening is that if you're just coming into the system, right, the plans you are going to be getting, so let's say I just bought an Xbox and I'm like, ooh, I want to get Core. Well, as of Wednesday, as of this recording, if I'm doing my math correctly, it might be the Wednesday before, but yeah, the prices will have already changed for new members going into the system. So you'll have to be paying 17 instead of 16 for Ultimate, yada 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 yada. However, so, my brain did a brain fart there, excuse me. That means that you're going to have to be paying the new prices already. However, if you already have stuff in the system, so I'm guessing if you already have Core, if you already have Ultimate, if you already have a subscription to these services, you're not going to have to pay these price hikes till September. So I guess what the moral of the story is, if you don't have your renewed subscription, renew now, because you're going to be paying more soon, about 2 months from now, so you might want to get on that. So where does that kind of leave us by and large? Well, if I might just say before I get too deep into that, this article here from PC World I particularly like because, again, it kind of points out the weird, archaic mess that all of this makes. Because, again, ignoring the whole issue that Standard and Core, which, as we've discussed on this show already, are 2 different subscriptions which provide you very different plans with very different benefits, kind of sound the same. So to the uninitiated in Microsoft's bullshit, for lack of a better term, you're gonna think you're buying the same thing, but you're not. You're buying different things. But again, as this article points out, which I really particularly like, you can't really expect any less from the company that went from the Xbox Series X and the Xbox One X and Xbox One S as their last consoles, and when they said, "What are we gonna go with the new consoles?" I know, Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X. Completely different names.
I mean, they were already going down that path when they went Xbox 360, so... I mean, the 360 at least had the ring of, okay, I've got 360 degrees of gaming or whatever. I don't know, whatever marketing spiel you could try to go. But, I don't know if it'll work this time.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's in charge of the marketing department over at Xbox, but I would check on them, like now. Are they okay? Do they need help? But jokes aside, what does this kind of leave us? It leaves us in this weird position because, again, maybe I'm extrapolating a bit too much from this, but it almost feels like, and I wouldn't be surprised even, if this is kind of a push from Xbox to push more people into the Ultimate system. For those who aren't aware of the inner mumblings of the game industry, and I can't blame you for not, it's very kind of rumor mill concept at best. But there's been a lot of talk over the last few years of pushing more towards the streaming side of gaming. Hell, some of the really ambitious and possibly stupid studios have outright said, i.e. Ubisoft, that gamers are going to have to get used to not owning their games in the future, which, if you think that sounds irritating, congratulations. You're right, it does sound extremely irritating. But it does kind of show you the kind of mentality that the big wigs behind the game industry are kind of having at the moment, because to put it lightly, it almost feels like a lot of people in the industry are kind of chasing that streamer gold, so to speak, that game streaming gold. Remember when Netflix first came out, for those who are old enough to remember nowadays?
Right.
Can't believe I'm getting old enough to say that.
Remember, kids, 2000s music is now just as old as 80s music was in the 2000s.
Oh, is that true? Oh my, that is... That puts everything into perspective and makes things very awkward for me. But anyway, but going back to the topic, I mean, I remember when the streaming services first came out and there was a big push to get into streaming, and, you know, the whole concept that it was a big service, but it could also be, you know, monetized out the butt. It kind of feels that this is kind of where we're at in the game industry right now as well. Xbox themselves, and I'm not even surprised for them, they have admitted, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox himself, has admitted to a degree, I think he actually admitted outright, that he has, again, paraphrasing here, given up on the console wars in their totality. Now, this doesn't mean he's given up on Xbox. He himself says that the Xbox Series X, again, really not confusing name, is not going to be the last console, and that there will probably be a few more consoles after this. Definitely. There will definitely be a few more consoles after this. However, Xbox is no longer obsessed about the consoles as they used to be. And so that begs the question, well, what's the new marketing shtick? Obviously, they're not going to dissolve their studio now because consoles aren't a thing. Well, it appears streaming has been the way to go. And again, for the longest time, as I pointed out again earlier in the show, people have said that the Ultimate Pass and just Game Pass in general was the best gaming deal on the market. Not probably so much anymore, but it's definitely showing that Xbox's new angle, so to speak, has been the streaming end of gaming. And I confess there is some benefits to it. Whether you think the hardware is there or not is a discussion for another day, but you can see that Xbox is kind of leaning harder into the streaming business these days than not. And so you could arguably extrapolate this, and again, take this with a massive grain of salt, entire shaker's worth even, because this is just me extrapolating from what I'm seeing here, that this could be a push from Xbox to get more people into the system, Ultimate being the kind of end goal here, because again, as we've covered, I'm saying that word a lot on the show, that phrase a lot on the show today, you can't just buy console and core together to get the same-ish perks of Ultimate, because not only are you physically getting less perks, you're not getting the streaming, as we've said, and you're not getting EA Play, which, whatever that is, or whatever that's worth, I should say. But you're also paying more, $21 instead of just $17 for Ultimate,
Yes.
which includes all of that and then some. So, again, it begs the question, why the hell are they doing this? It makes no business.
I'll say this for what it is. There are some deals when it comes to this kind of thing. Sometimes you can get pretty good, sizable deals where you can get like a variety of games, some of which are really big name games for a fairly cheap price overall. But at some point, it isn't really worth going through all the effort of having this subscription fee and everything if you're not entirely able to go and play these games for a very long period of time, because sometimes you're not actually able to play it for very long. Sometimes these games are only available for a period of time, and after that you're no longer allowed to play it. So what do you do then?
Again, it does kind of show that it is weird. Like I said, it is weird. Because you're kind of thinking, well, what business sense does this make? You're offering less for more. And anyone with any degree in business will tell you, or any knowledge of business, not even a degree, will tell you, that's not good business sense. So what's the point here? Well, like I said, extrapolating it here, this could be an attempt by Xbox to get more people into the Ultimate system. Hell, it might just sell me purely based on the position it puts you in. And it's weird because it's a really odd tactic to use, because it's not selling you on Ultimate based on the fact of convenience. It's selling you on Ultimate based on the inconvenience of now current plans, which is kind of like inventing a problem to sell the solution, which itself is by no means a new strategy, but it's a very odd way of going about doing it, I'll admit. So, and again, that's not even touching on, again, the other side of this is that even if you don't plan to play their game and go to Ultimate, that still leaves the fact that Ultimate and all the other plans for in general, including the new plan, well, can you really say new plan has a price hike? The existing plans are going to have a price hike of a few dollars. So, again, that might not sound like much, but by and large, you're probably actually you're paying more. So, And again, the Game Pass standard, which will now be on the market, which, as we've discussed, will not have multiplayer for some odd flippin' reason, will also be like $14 a month, which that's a lot of money to shell out per month.
Yep.
Which doesn't even include online multiplayer for some ungodly reason. Like. Again, this might just make me an Ultimate user just based on the inconvenience of it all. I mean, I was kind of already debating about going to Ultimate because of my personal reasons, at least temporarily, because I'll be in Scotland for a little while, so a little while being a few months. So I'd like to have something to do over there while I'm studying as well.
You know, you don't want to
But-
be sitting out bored out of your mind, but
Well, I've gotten accommodation at the college, but because of other reasons, I'll probably be mostly at the college, which means I'll be stranded at the college, which means I need something to do while I'm not working on work at the university, or I should say university these days, because I actually am at a university. I'm so happy. But while I'm actually doing stuff at the university, because if I'm trapped at the university, as you say, I'll be bored out of my skull. So, you know,
yes.
it'd be nice to have some stuff to do. But anyways, my point here is that between the price hikes and just the archaic, obtuse, idiotic, I think all those words work here, new business model, it makes no sense. Again, I could be satirical and cynical here and say that this is, again, an attempt to balance the scales because now they're offering EA Play and all of the EA titles on day one. Because, again, and also because now they own Activision Blizzard, so there's that now, and they're adding the new COD to day one, so they're trying to maybe readjust because they're offering more value, because apparently COD offers so much value. But, I don't know. I mean, we all thought that when Activision was purchased by Xbox that they'd make Activision Blizzard better. Seems they're the other way around. Activision Blizzard is making them worse. But again, that's me being satirical and the funny man. On a serious note, like I said, I don't know. My only theory I can offer, like I said, is they're trying to push more people into Ultimate, which, as I said, seems to be the long-term goal of Xbox, trying to get further and further into the streaming business. Because, like I said, that's gracious, I have so much phlegm at the moment. Because, again, while I do not predict that the Series X or S or whatever we're at this point will be the last console, I do predict there will be one, if not two more consoles after this. I do predict that, like a lot of people are saying, Xbox wants to get into the streaming business. That's where they think the future of gaming lies. Whether they're correct or not is anybody's guess. I do know that they want to be correct because there's a lot of money to be made in streaming. Just look at Netflix and all the other streaming services that have popped up from that Disney. But, yeah, so, I mean, it certainly business-wise makes sense. I don't know if it logically makes sense because, ladies and gentlemen, remember, business sense and logic are two very different things. Let no one tell you otherwise. But anyways, that's kind of where we are at the moment. What do you think, Justin? Any thoughts?
I will.
You've been quiet.
Yes, I have been quiet. I will say this. I have a feeling overall one of the key factors that is making Xbox go down this decision is the fact that they do have to pay off some of the money that they've basically asked Papa Microsoft for going and getting acquisitions of companies. So there is some level of value that they do have to basically encompass, because to Microsoft they're going to sit there and be like, okay, well, what was the point of the acquisition if we're not going to get anything out of it? So there is that, but at the same token, very much a case of they're probably going to continue trying to get into streaming like so many other businesses and gaming services have. So we're going to see where that goes.
Yeah, which is funny because way I hear it on the wind, the streaming bubble has or is about to pop, so it's going to be awkward for them.
Yep.
I mean, I kind of saw the writing on the wall personally since the inception of the streaming wars, because here's the thing, right? When the streaming wars first started, kind of spearheaded by Netflix kind of making it the trend, because let's be frank, in business, it's not innovation that rules. It's one guy does something smart and everyone just copies that one guy. And The problem here is that streaming services, as the name would imply, require subscription plans to be a part of. Subscription plans cost money. So everyone wanted a new subscription service, or everyone wanted a subscription service, but everyone also wanted a streaming service all their own to offer a subscription to. It kind of became the new version of cable TV, if you are old enough to remember that. Again, I'm getting old enough to say that. But the problem here is that unlike cable TV, or unlike cable channels, which generally came in packages so you could get multiple for one, the problem with subscription services is by the very inception point of their business model, and the benefit, if you ask the businessman, is that each plan is paid individually, so everyone gets their cut. The problem here is that when you put it on the customer's back, that means that between Disney, between Netflix, between Paramount, if you have got that, you're paying at least 3 different subscriptions plus all the other stuff you have to pay. And subscriptions these days are like what? 15, 14 bucks a month, thereabouts. Maybe more nowadays, honestly. I don't remember the plans. I don't keep track of the prices they've got these days. And that's per plan. So per month you're paying at least what? $50 odd per month in plans if you do the rounding. If I'm doing my math right, which I'm probably not. But that's a lot of money to ask for people per month.
Yeah.
And so the logic is that
Yeah, no, just agreeing there. Like that's a lot, and it's gonna add up very quickly.
And so the logic is that the more people get into the game, the more people try to demand your money, the more plans everybody's gonna have. I mean, I remember reading a study a while back. Forgive me if I can't remember who. Is that like the common American, because again it was an American study, have multiple subscriptions, at least 2 subscriptions, which is at least what? 30 odd bucks a month after taxes. And, you know, there's only so much you can sustain. So eventually people are just going to say, to heck with it, and either drop the subscriptions in their totality or just keep the very 2 they absolutely want, or 1 if you're very minimalist. And so when you see the gaming industry kind of get into it, you're kind of thinking, well, they're either going to suffer from the same pop of the bubble, or they're going to have their own little bit of, you know, bubble, and then it'll pop as well, because we've already proven that this system is flawed. There are only so many subscription services that can have their money. There's only so much money to go around. That's a better analogy. So, I don't know. Is Xbox's plan to become the subscription king of the games industry a good idea? Well, at the moment, it doesn't seem like a bad idea in a vacuum, because as far as I can tell, it's them and PlayStation. Which, that's only 2. That fills the 2 niches. If you don't have a movie subscription, then that's your 30 bucks a month, roughly thereabouts. So, But again, that's not counting the movie subscriptions and every other subscription. Let's not forget that the food is getting into subscriptions these days with DoorDash and Voila and yada, yada, yada. And you're starting to see it's all adding up.
Everyone is going subscription, but at some point, a subscription will not help you.
Yeah, at some point, there's just not going to be enough money to go around. And so when Xbox says we want to get into the streaming business, I say that's not a bad idea. The tech might work. Again, streaming for gaming is a great idea in a vacuum. That was Google Stadia. Excuse me, let's just, I don't want to say pay a sign of respect, but forgive me to those acknowledgement. Forgive me to those that to mention Stadia in. Probably just caused some people to break out in hives. That was Stadia's whole selling point. But Google didn't know the games industry. And while they might have had the tech on the back end to make it work, they just didn't have the knowledge in the front end to make it work. Xbox does. So, And to your comment previously about Xbox wanting to pay back up on Microsoft, that's the weird part, honestly. I kind of agree and disagree to some degree, because unlike PlayStation, as I used to work for a company that was a salesman on part for PlayStation. I used to be a PlayStation rep, funny enough. I know for a fact that they are 2 legally distinct entities. Sony does not lump PlayStation in when they do their stuff. Xbox and Microsoft, however, are often used, even internally, interchangeably. So I don't know if there's much of a difference in the corporate ends. Whereas PlayStation is an entire different corp to some degree than Sony, which, yeah, they are Papa and Son, but they're not the same legal entity.
No.
I don't know in the case of Xbox. I honestly think that Xbox might be a division of Microsoft. So they're still the same legal entity, but who knows? So, the decisions of one might be the same as the decisions of the other, but you might be right. You never know. But yeah, that's kind of today's episode, folks.
Yeah.
Well, let us know in the comments section. What do you think of the price hikes? Do you think they're a good idea? Do you think they're a bad idea? What do you think of the seeming increasing drive to drive people, it's 2 drives in a row, to drive more people, the third, to drive more people, there's the fourth, put more people into the subscription service, alright, couldn't say it for a 5th time. Let us know. Honestly, I'm curious to hear everyone's thoughts. What do you think of the increasing demand for subscriptions and the toll it's taking? I know at this point that by and large, I've got maybe, 4 subscriptions at this point? Including PlayStation and Xbox and the movie subscriptions, and I will not touch the food subscriptions, though I am certainly tempted to. So, what do you know? What do you think, Justin? What are your thinks on the subscription service plan?
It is honestly getting to the level of being a fad that everyone just wants to go and hike onto because it was profitable for a period of time. And it's probably not going to go over all too well within the next little bit.
That's the funny part. All business is, at the end of the day, just trend chasing. And that's the sad part. As a man with 2 diplomas and hopefully a degree in business, I can tell you, business is just trend chasing, honestly. It really is. Like, people will tell you the whole product curve of, like, the bell curve of products get introduced, products get copied, and products burst. If I'm being really cynical about it, if you'll pardon me for a moment, it probably goes more akin to a good product is invented, everyone copies it, there becomes way too many of the product, and the whole industry just collapses as a result. That's kind of how business works. It oversaturates itself and destroys itself in the process. It's a self-destructive system, really. But, we'll see how long the subscription one lasts.
We'll see how far they go. And if they lose anything out of it.
Get us out of here.
I mean, Xbox is kind of like Google at that point. They can throw things at the wall and see what sticks, and they'll probably be fine. No, correction. They will definitely be fine.
Probably.
Be advised, all ground units.
Anyways, that's this week's episode, everyone. Have a good one, have a good weekend, and see y'all next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Have fun.
One way to get their attention. Hang on.